One of the most used pejoratives in political discourse is the word socialist. In fact, it's very difficult to have a discussion about anything now with the word brought up and thrown at someone. And it's very sad that this word is used correctly very often, if at all, by most people, so I would like to talk about what is socialism, and why is it used wrong so often. The term socialism simply means a system of economics where the workers control the means of production, which are things like factories, farms, and so on. This is the opposite of capitalism, where one person, called the bourgeois, controls it and is worked by what's called the proletariat for wages. The reason for why socialists say we should have socialism rather than capitalism is that value can only come from labor, which is why a chair is more valuable than the wood it was made out of. This is known as the labor theory of value, which actually isn't even a leftist thing. This is something that Adam Smith talked about. This means that any profit gained by capitalists are simply stolen from workers, the people who use their labor value to create things. I feel that it is important to say that there are many different kinds of socialism, but this is what is widely considered by leftists as socialism, so this is what I'm going to talk about. The term socialism was first used during the French Revolution. The first person to use it was Comte de Saint-Simon, who is often considered the founder of French socialism. He spoke to the Brother of Man, which was one of the many parliaments during the French Revolution, and proposed many reforms like that the state carry out production and distribution, that allowing everyone to have equal opportunity to develop their talents related to social harmony, that the traditional state could be virtually eliminated or transformed. Even saying that rule over men would be replaced by the administration of things. This idea was repeated by Karl Marx later when he said that the transition from feudalism to capitalism changed it when it abolished feudal property in favor of bourgeois property. After him, the torch of French socialism was taken by Charles Fourier, who is one of my personal favorites because he created the word feminism, and he believes that in a utopian socialist society, the seas would turn to lemonade. The next person to pick up the torch of socialism was the most famous and influential person to write about it, and it was the German scholar Karl Marx. Karl Marx was a foundational thinker in socialism, creating what he called scientific socialism, or as it more often called Marxism, which was the most distinctive from other forms of socialism because of a theory of history known as historical materialism. Historical materialism is the belief that history consists mainly of class struggle above everything else. Another thing that made Karl Marx unique compared to other socialists at the time was that up to this point, socialism believed that capitalism could be reformed into socialism, but Marx believed that the only way to end capitalism was through revolution, since under capitalism, the capitalist class held outsized influence by owning the means of production. His most famous works were the Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital, which was where he wrote most of his theories like historical materialism and his examination and critique of capitalist society. During this time, there were few socialist societies, although there was one very brief one in Paris called the Paris Commune, which briefly controlled the city of Paris from 28th of March to 20th of May, 1871. The Commune made many reforms, such as turning workplaces into cooperatives, which are a democratically run workplace where everyone gets an equal amount of profits. Sadly, this was short-lived, only being in power for a month, and after this, socialist movements were crippled for years, although not forever, as the 20th century had the biggest socialist revolution when the socialists in Russia founded the Soviet Union, who came to power by offering bread, land, and peace. This is when the capitalist countries began to be scared that they could fall to socialism. This is the beginning of the Cold War and the demonization of the term socialist. A fact often forgotten about American politics is that socialism had a large place in American politics in the late 19th to early 20th century, and participated heavily with all social movements throughout the history of the United States, from the abolitionists to the civil rights movement. And during the Great Depression, America was so poor that socialist leaders believed that America might become socialist. But Franklin Roosevelt came along, opting for many ideas that socialism had and lifted America out of the Depression. The socialist movement was surprised by this, and some were mad at Roosevelt for saving capitalism rather than letting it fail. This hatred and demonization of the term socialist would also be compounded by the Cold War and later the McCarthy trials. The McCarthy trials was a witch hunt by Wisconsin Senator Joseph McCarthy to hunt down supposed socialists in the government. He found no socialists, although this also included things like spying on members of Hollywood and labor organizers. No person in the government spoke up to these witch trials because anyone who pointed out how bogus these trials were was considered a socialist and would be put under scrutiny and likely be investigated themselves. This began the usage of socialist as a derogatory term, which continues to this day, and the fear of socialists went on for a long time, where the FBI would spy on and kill people like the Black Panthers and other civil rights groups they claimed to be socialists. Although in the modern day, socialism has begun making a comeback with groups such as the DSA, who have been rising in numbers for the last decade. Even having self-described socialist Bernie Sanders run for president and coming in second in the Democratic primary. Although Bernie Sanders isn't a socialist, he is important since he has been normalizing the term socialist by using it so much. Overall, I would have to say that if socialists play their cards right, they may be able to succeed in what they've been trying to do for centuries. Thank you for watching, and next week I will be talking about the history and definition of anarchism. Thank you. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments.